you might be going against them 9 times out of 10, but in that 10th time, there might be an opportunity for you to lock arms and actually better serve that customer.
This is Start, Grow, Manage, where we help managed service providers achieve the impact, freedom, and wealth you imagined back when you started your company. At Start, Grow, Manage, our tools, practices, and processes help you engage, energize, and execute on building a business that empowers an extraordinary life. Learn more about our programs and how they can fuel your fire at startgrowmanage.com/learn more. Let's go.
Hey there, Joe. How's it going?
It's going good. How's it going, Jeff?
Good. It's been busy around here lately.
Holy moly, you are not kidding. It's been busy and fun.
So, one of the things that has come up recently, especially as we go through the MSP launch formula, is the idea of the jobs to be done framework. We used to talk about that a little bit more. And it's actually one of those key things to help people figure out what the problem is that they solve. And it was designed by Clayton Christensen, and he is one of those famed Harvard Business Review authors who does lots of wonderful things in the Harvard Business Review. And the way that he structured the challenge is he said to people, remember that people don't buy a product or service. They hire your product or service to do a job. And I think this is something, we need to bring back into our conversation, because this is such a key idea. We've been using this with the MSP launch formula crew to help them structure the problem they solve and understand who it's for. But there's like a big distinction between I'm buying something and I'm hiring it to do a job.
Yes. And it's really great, because then the whole thing is, if you look at your own needs and what you want to get your jobs done, when you look at your own stuff, it's like, you don't buy the drill for the drill, you buy it for the holes.
Well, some people do buy the drill for the drill, but that does anyway, there are people who buy the drill for the drill. But yeah, and then there's and you can keep going with that, and you can say, well, people don't actually want the holes in their wall either.
No.
They want the picture on the wall. And then you could say people don't actually want the picture on the wall. They want the design that the picture imparts. But along that way, there are jobs to be done. And I know for myself, I struggle a little bit sometimes with, hey, we're talking about technology. Why is it not just technology that we're delivering? And part of that is just, look, you're using technology, but that is the tool. And that is, to say that you're a technologist is to say that you're a mechanic. But there's a huge difference between a mechanic for a Corolla who's there to make sure that you can get to work every day, and a mechanic for a Formula One car who's there to make sure that the engine can continue to run at 16,000 RPM and 600 miles an hour, whatever those cars are for, right? They're like very different things. And as a result, they charge very different prices, and their business model is very different. And this is the concept that I think is so important that we get into the MSP space, that you aren't selling technology. You aren't doing technology. That's your tool, but you are doing a job for somebody. They have a need and you're doing a job. Like when you were working with personal injury attorneys, what would you say the job was that you did for them?
To ensure that they got to court with everything that they needed to win the case.
So the problem they're having without that job is what? Like, how would you frame it?
Their documents were all over the place, scattered. Everything wasn't centralized. Their all their appointments were not set on time. So they would they would miss appointments, show up late, missing documents. There wasn't a clear way that they could gather all the information for that client, right? And show up to an appointment and have everything that they actually needed to win.
And then to be clear, your solution was a technology solution.
100%.
It involved all of the tech that
All the tech.
everybody
It was
uses.
a scanning system that put everything, filed it directly into their law management system and put it directly where it needed to be. And it was an appointment setting system that was connected to their law management system. And it was like a naming convention. It was all the technological pieces, but they didn't care about any of that. They wanted to win cases. And how you win cases is you have everything that you need when you show up, and you're not running around with a briefcase trying to go through and
So,
to find
so you then, but you are also an MSP for ophthalmologists.
yes,
So what was the problem that you solved for ophthalmologists?
to give them the ability to see more patients than they were able to see before, so that they could increase their revenue, right? That was the very first thing, and to keep their patient data safe. So those were the two things that I was really focused on in ophthalmology: is how do we increase patient throughput and patient experience, right?
Yeah.
And the patient has a
Yeah.
great experience,
Yeah.
but then I can see 2 times the amount of patients that I was seeing before.
And I know when we talk about dermatologists, they're also, some people are bringing in the idea of e-commerce, and all of these are technological solutions. They're all technology. You're still doing technology. Nobody's saying you're not doing technology. We're not taking technology away from you. It's just understanding the job that the technology does for the customer. And I think that thinking, I just wanted to talk about that this week, because I think that that's a really important distinction, because when we talk about the problem you solve, I think we sometimes get confused, or people get confused, and they think that it's not tech. And I've struggled with that a little bit. How do I explain it? And really looking at this framework, that's how to explain it, right? It's to understand that you're doing a job for somebody,
Yes.
and that technology is your tool.
And the technology is your tool, but you've got to think of it like front of the house, back of the house, right? In the front of the house, what's the problem that you're fixing for the perception of the client? What they see as the problem, right? Like, I can't see enough patients. In the back of the house, there's all the technology that allows me to onboard patients faster, improve patient experience, do SMS follow-up, do this, do that, the faster logins through hit cards and all kinds of tech that fixes that problem. But you just got to remember that there's what's happening for the client, there's what's happening for you.
Yeah. And even if they are getting a tech benefit out of it, it's still, you're doing a job for them.
That's it.
And if you're not doing the job, see, here's where it falls apart, is if you're not doing a specific job for somebody, then you're a commodity. Then you have no pricing power. Then you don't have the opportunity to take advantage of the growing market. So on that, we had a great interview with Greg Plum. Now, Greg is the director and principal at PartnerReady. He's a CompTIA faculty member, and he's a speaker who focuses on how to help tech founders and revenue leaders uncover new routes to market by focusing on their ideal customer ecosystem. And we even talk in this interview about the jobs to be done framework. And if you really want to grow your revenue, you create that ecosystem around that job to be done. Who else is doing that job or helping you do the job? And he had some really fascinating things to say about that. without further ado, well, no, I am going to add some ado, Joe. I'm going to add
A little ado is okay.
there's some further ado because I just want to point out that the audio on this one is not very good. So we actually recorded this during the solar eclipse, and I was out at my son's university, sitting in their campus doing the recording, and I thought it was clean, but it really isn't that great. And so I apologize for the quality of the audio, but the content itself is amazing. So enjoy, and remember, jobs to be done.
Jobs to be done all day long.
Hey, Greg, lovely to meet you. So Joe said a lot of great things about you guys' conversations. I've been watching your videos online, like very cool stuff.
Thanks.
What I'm mostly interested in is talking about the Jetsons and everything and the flying cars. I'm certainly interested in the flying cars, but what I really want to know is if you have any opinion as to when the cars are going to make the sound, the little sound.
I will tell
it's
you
like-
right now, I guarantee Tesla could absolutely make that happen. Guaranteed. It's funny. So I didn't. So wait, we're not talking. Are we talking about that today? We could talk about whatever you want.
No,
to
we're
talk
not
about.
talking about that at all, actually.
Oh, okay.
I just thought that'd be a fun way to start. What we did kind of want to talk to you about was partnerships, right? So you're big on helping MSPs and tech companies build your partnerships. And, we're looking at building partnerships as well. So like, this is actually where we'd like to start and maybe get some free consulting from you along the way. But why partnerships, Greg?
Well, and I just did the talk at the University of Delaware about a month ago, and it made me step back because it was talking to a different audience. My usual audience knows partnerships already to some degree, or they think they do.
Yes.
The question is how they go about executing them. And in that talk, I had to step back a little bit, and I realized there's three ways to go. You build, you buy, or you partner. Those are the three ways
Right.
to grow a business.
Mm.
So to me, there's way more leverage and scale in a timely fashion if you're going to partner, because what you're doing is you're dovetailing, right? You're doing a SWOT analysis on your partner, and you're finding those that have a weakness where your strength might augment what they're already doing. And when you do that, you're just stronger together. And you know what? It might even be a competitor. That's the thing that sometimes is a tough pill to swallow. You might be going against them 9 times out of 10, but in that 10th time, there might be an opportunity for you to lock arms and actually better serve that customer. Then theoretically, potentially you can actually go at other business together. So earlier in my career, when I was way more immature, I'm still immature, but early on when I would be faced with a competitor, I was always very tight, keep things tight, close to the vest.
Yeah.
And it's just a silly thing. It's really not what business is about. It's really about being authentic, being open, and finding those opportunities to really bolt on to others. And quite frankly, to me, it's way more fun. I discovered the channel by accident in 2000, and it changed my life, really.
Yeah, one of our core principles is this idea of operating from a perspective of abundance and the fact that we're actually playing an infinite game rather than the zero-sum game. And it's one of the things that we tell people right away, because we bring a bunch of MSPs into a room and ostensibly they may be competing, but our view is always, look, guys, we're all so small. There's no way we're competing, right? We're all just, and anybody who's doing the same thing that we're doing, it's not really competition. It's really a different perspective or a different way of doing things. And you're sort of much better off working together than trying to see things as a zero-sum game. So I think we agree with you 100% on that. Even if you're partnering with your competition, go for it.
Yeah. The funny thing is, so I'm in Delaware. All right. Delaware is famous for being small, right? There's no question about it. And there's really, they talk, what is it? Is it 8 degrees of separation with Kevin Baker's on? Here, it's like half of a degree. Literally, it's ridiculous. I mean, here, Delaware is the one place where you can go to get your coffee in the morning and see the governor or a congressman or a senator. It's very cool. It's interesting. So we do have a pretty small ecosystem of MSPs, right? And I'm actually friends with most of them. And it's funny because they each have their own kind of culture and fabric that is the best, where they have their optimal fit, where they have their ICP, that there may be some overlap, but largely they stay to their lane. So there is an opportunity to collaborate without fear of cannibalization, really.
Yeah. If you cooperate that way, things open up, that opportunities open up that you couldn't even have imagined were available, actually become available for you. Oh, what happened?
So it's funny. You just see the light bulb. You don't see. You're not going to see the light bulb go off very often with me because it's relatively dim. But when it does go off, you see it. There's a book out there by Adam Grant. If you've ever heard of Adam Grant, great author, really impressive, young guy, really super impressive. His book's called Give and Take. And they talk about that zero-sum game. Those are matchers, right? You have people that are out there just natural givers, those that are natural takers, and those that are matchers. And matchers think they're doing okay, but they're keeping track. And my problem with that is if you succeed, then you know exactly what you get, and you get just that, right? If I'm going to match, I'm going to give, and I'm going to get something in return. When you give just for the sake of giving, and I have a talk on that too, on volunteerism, the power of it's called Give Till It Hurts. You just never know.
Yeah, I saw that talk. That was really good.
Thanks. And it was horribly produced. That wasn't about the production quality, but the content to me, that saying came from my dad. My dad used to always say that, give till it hurts. He didn't really mean it, but it stuck with me. And I love volunteering. And quite frankly, it's extremely selfish. And by the way, you guys, April's National Volunteer Month.
All right, look at that.
It's a very selfish thing, because when you're giving to something that you believe in, you don't feel like you're sacrificing. It's a selfish thing. It's like with my kids. I used to take my daughter's soccer team, take the team pictures. And yes, it took tons and tons of hours, but I didn't view it as a sacrifice. It was an honor and a privilege. Same concept. My son was in marching band. Same thing. We lugged drums and hauled them all over the place. Same thing. I didn't do it because I was trying to be a good guy. I did it because I love doing it. And it was a selfish thing. So anyway, I don't even know how do we get on that tangent?
I don't know, but it was a nice little tangent. One of the things I did want to ask you about it, you did mention a story on partnerships about example of a partnership started with a phone call, right? That led to the partner being acquired for $19 million. And I'd love to hear that story, because I think one of the things that we struggle with is, how do I find the partner? How do I know if it's the right partner? And I'm thinking that would be a great way for us to get into that conversation.
Yeah, so it's truly one of those words, and this is the newest thing. It hit me over the weekend. It's spring, right? So I was mulching an awful lot. So when I'm mulching, I had a lot of time to think, and it dawned on me. Two of the things that, and it's funny because I do some teaching on AI. Who doesn't do anything with AI these days? So I teach a course on that, but it dawned on me, one of the two concepts that we have in partnerships are alignment, which Jeff, it's what you're referring to right there. Alignment and influence. Those really, if you get the two of those, that's a different AI, but you get the two of those together, that is your winning combination. That's how you get a successful partnership. That particular one, I had no idea. I was dumb early in my career. I took the phone call. I'm grateful that I did. They beat me up right out of the gate. The partner beat me up. They knew what they were doing. I did not. But I reckless abandon. I went straight ahead, just dumb and happy, and learned a ton the entire way. Contracts, the pitfalls, things to look out for. SLAs, I learned the ins and outs of SLAs and the importance of SLAs. And through that partner it taught me a lesson. Those partners that really run you through the ringer early on, pay attention to them, because number one, it's going to make you better. But number two, they're serious. Right? You send an agreement out, an MSA out, and you get an agreement signed back in 10 minutes. How much time do you think they really took putting into that they put into that? Not too much.
Yeah.
That was a valuable lesson to me, to really pay attention. Those that are hard and difficult to work with out of the gate, it's because they're serious. And those are the ones that lead to the fruit down the road.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. You want to work with those who are testing the limits with you, who are pushing you in a certain way, rather than just accepting everything and moving on, right? There's got to be, I think it's an interesting concept, just what you're talking about, because I do see that. I see that with some partners that we work with, that there's a bit of just everybody's accepting everything. And now, how do we just do stuff? But when you're challenging somebody, you're like, no, really, I want to understand what it is. I want to understand why you want this to be. I want to understand what your role is and my role is. it can feel a little bit threatening, but it also really defines what those roles are and how we're going to work together, and makes us all smarter. I don't know. Am I misinterpreting what you're saying?
Not at all. What it does, it shows that other party has the long game in mind. They're not thinking transactionally, which is huge to me, right? That's why we do what we do. So we're not built just handling a single transaction. If we're done well, partnerships become that annuity that actually lasts. I have some partners from 20 years ago that if I have the right opportunity, I still pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Actually, we don't really pick up phones anymore, do we? We do this, but which is cool. We didn't do
Text.
this back then. But it is. That's exactly what it's about. It's a those. You've heard the thing. The saying, "Iron sharpens iron," and that's what it comes down to. When you find those
Yeah, I like
partners
that.
that do test you. Now, you want to be careful, right? You don't want to be a whipping post. You don't want to be the whole wag the dog scenario, because that is still one-sided. This is not about being one-sided. It's about being truly a win-win. And then if you do that, then you get three winners, right? Because in every partnership deal, you've got two customers. You've got the end customer, and then you got the partner. You've got to keep that partner happy. And then there's so many nuances to it. And it's so not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And if it was easy, I think the stat right now, the last one I heard, and they're all over, and all stats are made up anyway, significantly less than 50%, way less than half partnerships succeed. Way less than half. I've heard as low as 15%. Scary, right? If you're like, my goodness, 85% of what we're doing is not going to bear fruit. But if we're strategic about it and we're methodical and we have the long game in mind, not just the transaction, the chances that the likelihood that's succeeding increase exponentially.
Or is it, just thinking about it, it's almost, is it that bad that only 15% succeed? It seems like you really want to kick somebody's tires and you want them to kick your tires. Most of the partnerships are going to fade out, right?
Yeah. So you know what we want to do? We want to get rid of the tire kickers, right? We want to weed through them. We want alignment. I would much rather have a handful, 6,
Yeah.
10 solid partners that we are truly aligned. We are going at this together. We mesh together well. We do the SWOT analysis and we know that we're better together. Those are the ones you want versus the ones you get once a quarter, you get a phone call. Hey, I have this opportunity. Do you want it? Will you take it? Of course you're going to take it, but that's not the goal. That's not what you're setting out to do with a partnership program.
What I like about what you said before, right, is that then there's that person that you're going to call, hey, we have this opportunity. And then you're like, oh, hold on. Let me see. What is the opportunity? Well, let's talk about it. Let me ask you some questions, right? Because you could look at that two ways. You could say, oh, this person's a jerk. I'm giving them an opportunity and they're putting me through the ringer. Or you can say, oh, this person's conscientious and they're going to do a great job if I give them this opportunity. So part of it is also our own listening. When we're bringing the opportunity to somebody, if we want really good partners, that 15% is going to be the people that ask those questions, that go deep, that find out, what does it really mean? What is it that you want me to deliver? What's the real scope of work? Right. And if they can do that, then that's a real partner because they're going to have you see things about the deal that you didn't even see yourself.
Absolutely. That's the value of having a partnership, right? You don't have to stand on your own 2 feet. You've got somebody else there to handle here's the thing. And then look, I get this all the time when I'm working with founders. Usually it's funny because usually this message is targeting founders, SaaS leaders, CROs. And there is an argument for the MSP where the same logic, the ecosystem strategy, which we haven't even touched on yet, applies to the MSP because they're part of the same ecosystem. It's just a matter of the lens through which they're looking. That's the challenge. But the funny thing is when these founders come to me and they say, okay, I want a partner program. I want a channel program. Of course you do. It's scalable. It's variable costs, right? I'm not paying for a big sales force. It's a rev share model. But the challenge is as soon as you say, guess what? It's probably going to cost you 20 to 30% margin. It's generally what it costs, depending on what type of program you have. Yeah. And by the way, guess what? That's forever. Then all of a sudden they tighten up on you. But think of it this way. If you're paying 20% commission, if we just go straight commission deal, then in my mind, that works. That's a good thing for the business. It's a good thing for the founder because what they're doing is they're getting, even if they're paying 20%, they're getting 80% of a dollar that they would not have seen otherwise, right? And it's brought in, if it's done well, if you've done your job enabling, educating your partner, they're only going to bring deals to you that fit. So you save all that time getting to the deals that really have a high likelihood of closing. So that 5%, 10% close rate is going to be exponentially higher. It should be 50, 60, 70% close rate if you've done a good job educating your partner. If you haven't, you're going to be wasting time and money.
Yeah, which brings me to the thing that you just said that we touched on a little bit, which is why I asked you, I talked to you about this, is why I even asked you to come is because the ecosystem talk that you did was so brilliant, right?
Oh, thanks.
So brilliant. And
Brilliant's a bit much. You're setting the bar a little high, but I appreciate it.
But look, it's really thinking about, because as I started to think about is what is an ecosystem, right? What is it? So why don't we start there? And then you can bring us back around to why it's so important to be part of one and why you have to create one for yourself if you don't have one.
So I have to ask this, are there visuals to this or is this audio only?
Well, there's both.
Oh, we can do visuals. There is an audio only version of this, but we do also put this on YouTube. So anybody who is listening to the audio only version, you can go check out the visuals on YouTube. Go for it, Greg.
All right. Because the picture's worth 1,000 words or whatever the word is, that whatever that saying is here. But let me share my screen real quick.
Oh, look at that.
All right.
Well, it's got our logo on it, so it must be good.
It must be good.
That's exactly right. We all love our names and our logos, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the concept of ecosystem. It's similar to when we think about like in second grade or third grade or whatever, when you'd walk in the woods, and that's our first introduction to the world, the concept of ecosystem, all these different organisms, birds, trees, water, everything kind of surviving off one another, playing into one another. You pull one thing out, look, you pull the bees out of an environment, but you think, oh, no more bee stings. Guess what? It has a massive ripple effect in a negative way. So every entity serves its purpose. So that's that type of ecosystem, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a tech ecosystem. What oftentimes happens is somebody will come in like that. I talked about that founder that says, I want to build a partner program. I want to build a channel. The first question they ask is, who do I know that can sell my stuff? Okay, it's the wrong question, because what that's done is it's put themselves in the middle. They're not building an ecosystem. They're building an ecosystem. It's around themselves. That's not what this is about. It's about looking through the lens of their customer. And then the questions are, who is my customer? How do they get their job done? What do they buy? When do they buy? How do they buy? Seasonality, all these different questions. And so what we do is, one thing I like to, because the picture's worth so much, is essentially think of NASCAR or Indy, right? You got the driver riding around the track. When they pull into the pit stop, right? They're going around, here they are, everybody's focusing on the driver. They pull in the pit stop, look what happens, right? They get swarmed. All these different individuals, they all have a single job with a common goal to get that driver back out on the track as soon as possible. Your challenge is to identify that is an ecosystem, and it's put the customer, the ICP, at the center. Your challenge, whether you're a SaaS provider, founder, CRO, or an MSP, is find out who everybody else is around that driver, who's influencing that driver, because they have their ear. Why not figure out as many of those as you can and figure out which ones you can bolt onto, which ones you can align with. Will you align with all of them? Absolutely not. But there's going to be some in there that you can. Those are your new routes to market. Those are your potential partners. That kind of makes sense?
It does, yeah. How do you know who the customer is?
Oh, I hope everybody listening to this knows who their customer is. I hope so. Now, if you don't, that's where you really need to start. You've got to be laser focused. Who is my ICP? So let me give you an example.
Can you just define ICP for anybody who doesn't know?
I'm so sorry. Ideal customer profile. Sorry. Your target customer, who you want to be selling to. You know what? If you're not sure, I would go to your customer. Figure if you have customers already, right? Pick 3 of them. 3 that you would love to replicate over and over again. Why? They're profitable. They don't kill you from a maintenance standpoint. You help them get their job done. There is mutual value, their value to your business and vice versa. That's your ICP. That is what you want to focus on replicating. Does that make sense?
Look, makes sense to us.
The only thing we ever talk about. So yeah.
What I want people to hear is I want them to hear it from your mouth so they don't think that we're completely crazy. because there's another framework that I think you might have just brought up that we tend to use a lot that has something to do with a job being done.
Ah, the job to be done. That's exactly. Yes, it's very good. Yeah, you're looking at your customer, and the question is, what is their job to be done? How do they get it done? Who helps them accomplish it? And then one of the concepts that PartnerReady has come up with, which I love. So PartnerReady, we haven't even talked about that. We're an ecosystem advisory firm where there's about a dozen of us around the world that we're independent, but we work under this common mindset, common strategy, teaching different companies, different tech companies, and it could be any company, but we focus pretty much on tech companies, on how they can go to market through that very concept, the job to be done, and then the value chain of the customer. What are the things, what is the stack, the tech stack, the service stack that allows that customer to get their job done, and where do you fit into it? And it's basically going in and really peeling back and getting really deep with that customer. And you want to know, how do you do that? You talk to them. You figure out, you get to know them really well. And I use the word scrutinize because scrutinize usually has a negative connotation, but I don't think it does. What you're doing is you're taking the time to really get to know the nuance, the ins and outs of their business and how they get their job done and their challenges. And when you do that, all these opportunities come to mind or come to light in different ways to help them accomplish their jobs.
Yeah.
And I want to point out, like with your, with the image, I love the image of the pit crew and the race car. And I think one of the things that people struggle with is this, what I do is technology, right? What I do is technology. And you might say, what the guy changing the tires does is he changes tires, or the people maintaining the car, what they do is car maintenance, right? But there's a difference between maintaining a Formula One car so that it's at top conditions so that you can drive it at 16,000 RPM or whatever it is and run a race, and fixing a Toyota Corolla. Like, both of them are mechanical. Both of them are like key problems to be solved, but you have to know which one you're solving and for which customer you're solving that problem. Otherwise, you're confusing the whole time and you're doing the technical work for the Corolla rather than the Formula One, or the Formula One for the Corolla. And if you're not clear about that, you're not going to be able to scale your business, right? So I think that's like a very clear way of clarifying that idea around that ideal customer profile, the avatar, and really understanding you use your technical skills to help them get that job done. You're not just providing technical skills.
One thing you mentioned, I love, you said you don't want to confuse the issue. You confuse your customer, they're not going to be a customer. No one,
Right.
a confused buyer is not a buyer.
Yeah.
And
The other
Go
thing
ahead,
is that if all you're doing is the technology and you're not solving a business problem for them, the money that you can charge and continue to charge is limited. The deeper you get into your client's problem, the more you understand their problem, the more you can charge because the more value you bring. The services you provide are actually worth more money to them because you fix a real problem that they have that slows them down.
You're going to struggle to find a product or a service, not a service, a technology that's not already commoditized. You're going to struggle with that, even in the world of AI, right? What you cannot commoditize is how it's applied. And, the old thing, people don't go to Home Depot to buy a drill. It's not about they don't want the drill, they want the hole. So it's the same concept. So let me just show you real quick to those that are seeing this. It might solidify it a little bit more. You've got your customer, and then these are the different entities. You've got marketplaces, membership organizations. If they belong to Ducks Unlimited or American Dental Association, whatever, these are the things that you want to know because these are different ways to get to them. These are groups that they're paying attention to. Integrators. What do we have here? Consultants, competitors, right? Competitors are here. You need to pay attention to that because they're also talking to your customer. They might already be working with them or they're trying to work with them. And then there's you. Now, that could be the MSP. That could be the SaaS leader. You are not in a bubble, right? You are very much a part of this whole ecosystem. The challenge is figuring out which of these other entities you can actually work with effectively to help that customer, help that partner better serve that customer. There's your alignment.
And listen, I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many times we'll get a new MSP that we're working with, and I'll say, "Who are the other vendors that are serving your clients?" And I don't know.
That's yeah. But that's great because there's the opportunity, right? That's what there's your homework. Go in there, sit down with them, take an hour, 2 hours, bring in lunch. Let's really roll up our sleeves and they will show you where it hurts. And that is the value. They do not forget that.
I was going to say, I love that, but go ahead and tell us the story you're going to tell us here.
Well, here's a real one, right? So an MSP, right? Who is your target customer? And this is something that this was a very real scenario. One of my, like I said, I've got a few friends that are MSPs, and this is a very typical type customer, 15-person CPA firm. So the question is, who is influencing that business? Marketplaces. It could be Salesforce. They might already have Salesforce implemented. They might be using Office 365. They might be buying technology from Pax8. You want to know these things because now these are potential other people that actually have the attention of your buyer. If it's Salesforce, is there an opportunity? One of my clients right now has a bolt-on to Salesforce for a certain type of client, for a complex, long sales cycle. It's an opportunity management tool. So I have a choice. I can go directly to the end user, or I can find consultants that are in the Salesforce ecosystem and say, hey, here's a tool that makes Salesforce better for this type of customer. Do you have that to this type of customer? And now there's a rev share model. Now I have a channel that I can develop. Membership organizations. These are, you look at all the different, and I don't even, frankly, I apologize. I don't remember all the acronyms, what these stand for. These are 3 organizations that accountants typically belong to. They have newsletters, right? They've got conferences. These are things that you want to know about should you participate in them. Then there's the consultants, right? A CPA firm, they have their own consultants. They got an attorney, probably not on staff in-house. It's probably outsourced. They've got an insurance agent. They probably have a business coach. They may have a sales coach. These are different entities that already have that customer's ear. You want to know who they are because you might be able to align with them and help them better serve their customer. Now you have a partner.
I love it. And I think that's exactly really along the lines of what we're talking about the whole time, right? It's this idea of knowing who your target customer is and really building your business around their needs and understanding that thing that you do is there to solve a job for them, is to do a job for them that's going to support them in building their business. And that's such an important point.
Agreed. And it's really not a complicated concept. It really isn't. It's just a change in perspective.
So Greg, lovely chat with you. So anybody really wants to start thinking about how to build their program, you've really generously offered to have a 30-minute consult with them. And we'll put the link to your calendar directly in the show notes. And anybody who's really looking at building that ecosystem can just have a chat with you and get some of this amazing advice. Because I think this is something that is going to be useful for a lot of people. Also take them out of their way of thinking and their way of running the business, which I think is just going to be incredibly valuable.
Would love to help, and just make sure they reference your podcast so I make sure that I take really good care of them.
All right, there you go. So be sure you reference the podcast so that Greg takes good care of it. Otherwise, who knows?
You'd still be taking care of.
Who knows what would happen to you?
Thanks for joining us, and a special thanks to our subscribers. Consider becoming one right now and tap into our insights and instincts to help drive your business vision and success. Remember, you didn't start your business to feel frustration. You started it for freedom. We can help you discover the impact, freedom, and wealth you always imagined. Learn more at startgrowmanage.com/learn more.